coming. I'm coming. I'm on my way. God damn it. I'm coming. Jesus. Doctor Strange. He's going to be in Spider-Man 3. I'm excited. I'm too excited. This is good news. It's Friday. Let's do this. Oh, it's a great day on the internet, everybody. Welcome to Assemble. I'm Matt. How are you? Good to see you today. It's all Friday. It's fun and games. Some of us are finishing our week. Some of us are just starting. I lose track of time most days and most hours. How has your week been? Man, there has been so much news going on, whether it's going to be from games and movie news and the world and the nonsense of the orange guy and the older guy. Those guys talking, saying all of the things that they said. World is strange. Speaking of strange, something that is strange, not so strange, Doctor Strange. Doctor Strange is going to be in Spider-Man 3. I am absolutely stoked for this, guys. What did you guys think about the announcement that we just got? For me, I think that this actually opens up the doors quite a bit. I think that we can actually see some really interesting things and interesting takes. Now, what we have been hearing about is that conversation around, now that we know that Doctor Strange is probably going to be in the movie, where we've been hearing rumblings of like a multiverse situation, a little bit of a scenario, if you will. And in this scenario, we're hearing that we're gonna see potentially the three Spider-Mans all kind of verge and come together with some different cameos. So seeing that we obviously have Tom Holland leading the charge with the current Spider-Man iteration, but then hearing that we might have Andrew Garfield as well pop into the movie, which will be very interesting. And the one and only Mr. Tobey Maguire making an appearance too. This is really getting interesting, especially with the news of Doctor Strange coming into the MCU and coming into Spider-Man 3. Because with that, we can play with a couple of different things. As you guys know, and spoiler alert for Spider-Man, the second one, but Far From Home, Spider-Man's identity is revealed by J. Jonah Jameson at the very end of the film. That sets up a lot of different things, especially coming out of Endgame. We have the snap, stuff is undone. I know that for Far From Home, it is post-snap, it's after Tony and everything, but it does leave a lot of questions, a lot of doors open, especially Doctor Strange. So with the mystical side and potential of a multiverse, I'm very curious what they're gonna end up doing. Part of me thinks that they could go down the route of having Doctor Strange utilizing some of his powers to be able to go, I know he doesn't have the time stone anymore, but being able to mess with time using magic to be able to open up more of doors to, say, the multiverse. And I kind of wonder if we might get Spider-Man doing these drop-ins to other universes of Spider-Man, where Tom Holland is actually going to be dropping into like the Andrew Garfield world or the Tobey Maguire world and within his own, and looking at what the possible implications are of Tom Holland releasing his identity, or everyone has found out about his identity, and the results of that within the multiverse. So if he goes off into the Andrew Garfield Spider-Man world, where maybe everybody knows it's the results of like everyone knowing who he is, what does that actually end up looking like? And kind of like going down a path with Doctor Strange on a journey together. I think it can be a really interesting dynamic of having Doctor Strange almost take up the mantle of that Iron Man figure, that Tony Stark figure, the father figure that, you know, Spider-Man, Tom Holland Peter Parker was looking up to with Tony, and not that it can replace that at all, but it creates an interesting new relationship where Spider-Man can rely on Doctor Strange to kind of lead him through these different paths of what could end up being kind of his future. I'm really interested to see what they're going to do with this, obviously. And I think that it can really set the stage for where we're going to go with the next round of Avengers films, and where we could end up going down the path when we're dealing with more of the mystical side and the multiverse side. Now, a lot of us might be wondering too, is like if we can get some kind of the Miles Morales touch in there. And we've had little tiny sprinklings of this coming through, but I don't think it's time yet, to be honest. I think that you save Miles Morales for down the road, because Tom Holland is such a young actor, and he is now at the forefront of being like known as Spider-Man. And as long as Tom Holland is in there and in that role, I don't think you bring in Miles Morales unless they want to tease it as part of a multiverse spinoff where they do go down and they look, and Doctor Strange is showing Peter that there is a different Spider-Man out there. And maybe we get some sort of tease of Miles Morales' suit in a multiverse scenario. It really opens the doors for what they're able to do. This has got me really, really psyched up, guys, because I haven't had any Marvel news in a while, so this really kind of hits home for me. I'm really, really excited about what they're going to do and where they're going to end up going. And also, I mean, we're talking about Doctor Strange coming into this third film, wondering what they're going to do from the villain standpoint. We've heard rumblings of, Spider-Man making a crossover within the Venom 2 movie that has been announced. And there's obviously there is the element of Carnage in there too. I wonder if we see spill over there, or are they going to kind of use this as an opportunity to really open that up for the multiverse, and almost the multiverse of Marvel Studios, Sony Studios, and being able to have that crossover. Maybe it actually allows them to do that, to allow the MCU Tom Holland Spider-Man crossover into the Sony world of Spider-Man, where there is Venom and Carnage and the other Spider-Man. I don't know, but it definitely gets me excited, and it definitely allows for a lot of mobility and a lot of different avenues for them to go down. And I think also just kind of keep Spider-Man fresh. Not that he has a problem with that, because anybody and everyone is going to go see another new Spider-Man movie. We're all hungry for it, and especially right now, we are all clamoring for news and content and new films to be able to come out for MCU. And with the news of a Spider-Man 3, I'm curious what they do with the villains, and I'm curious what they do with the storyline and how much it can expand it, because I'd like them to move beyond just being able to introduce like another villain. And I have total faith and confidence in Marvel when it comes to Peter Parker and this version of Spider-Man, because they weave it in within the MCU and they weave it through the storyline, so everything can kind of cross over, and it's not just these standalone films where, okay, throw in Green Goblin. I really hope that they do something more. I like that they have been teasing the Sinister Six, and maybe if they're going to go down the multiverse, maybe there is going to be a little bit more crossover when it comes to the villains, and that would get me very excited. I know that there's been tweets and postings of the actor who's played Kingpin in the Netflix Daredevil series. I think he's an amazing actor and an amazing version of Kingpin. That actor and that version of Kingpin, I'd love to see that in this possible multiverse version of Spider-Man. Being able to have him dabble into all these different universes to see the different villains and the different people that maybe Spider-Man is dealing with, that Tom Holland's Peter Parker hasn't really dealt with and hasn't been exposed to yet. Super excited. Can't wait. I want to wait for more news. I need a trailer. I need something to get my claws and get my face in. That's nasty. But it's going to be absolutely hot fire, as the young fellows say on the internets and on the websites. Those things. Speaking of hot, the other hot thing that's been coming out right now has actually been the whole discussion around the heat coming out of the new consoles. Now, guys, come on. We've been hearing about this like all week long, of like how the external storage on the Xbox Series X is too hot, and there's a concern with the heat coming out of the consoles versus the PS5. And people are all up in arms, and there was like the podcast on Giant Bomb where they were talking about it, and they pulled out the, the external drive, that the plug-in version for it, and the guy was like, that's hot. You know what else is hot? The pan out of the oven. You take the fries out of the oven, you get the glove on, it's warm. It's warm to the touch. They're computer parts that get hot. And when you quickly remove it, it's still warm to your hand. Now, we've seen people post about the Series X and talking about this, that they're concerned about the systems possibly overheating and getting too hot. And I've seen very little, at least on my side, I've seen very little that supports this argument that there's a concern of the systems are going to overheat. I'm sure you can get them extremely hot if you put them in a closed space and you are trying to quick resume and play multiple games at once and you are pushing the limits of the system, I think that you can get the thing pretty hot. Or maybe if you're doing a lot of heavy transfers between your external storage and your internal storage, that could probably pop up too. But I don't really feel like I'm very concerned about this whole thing. I was even watching the Kind of Funny podcasts and watching those guys the other day, and Greg was talking about how, he has the Series X and he's noticed zero issues when it comes to the heat coming out of the console. What do you guys think? Do you think that this is an actual legitimate concern, or do you think that we're just hearing about these things because it's we're trying to find things to kind of poke at? There's always going to be downsides to any console, and look at like the PS4. Look how hot that thing got, and more importantly, look how loud that thing got. It's the jet engine, right? There's always going to be something, and no system is going to be perfect unless you just are like, I'm going to go with a PC, and then you can do whatever you want. But we got to understand that for the average user, like, I don't think that this is going to be a big problem at all. But what do you guys think? Do you think that this actually matters? Do you think that there's going to be an issue when it comes to the heat and the temperature of the consoles? I know that if I put it in my entertainment unit and I've got both the doors actually completely closed and I turn on my Xbox, it gets hot. It gets really hot because there's no circulation. There's not enough air to circulate. So yeah, that's going to get really, really warm. And it is in my opinion, a beautifully designed system for the Series X. And to be able to have those components lined up the way they do, and the form factor is so tight that there may be sacrifices along the way, but I don't think that Xbox has had to really compromise on what their vision is. I think that this is a really excellent system. I'm personally very excited about it, and I'm excited about both consoles. And the other console that obviously is going to be in the game and has had a lot of spotlight in this last week was going to be the PS5 and the teardown of the PS5 console that we saw from Japan in that news conference. Now, I wanted to do a reacts on this, to be honest, guys, but I didn't have it in me. I'm techie, but I'm not that technical where I can look at a guy break apart a box and talk to me about the SSD and looking at like a motherboard chip. I just don't feel that there's enough there for me to go, that's a computer part. Well, that's impressive. There's nothing really to go in. My biggest takeaway from that conference and that teardown, one, it was just kind of interesting that Sony just kind of put it out there. And I feel like this has been a lot of what Sony has done all along the way with the PS5, is that we just kind of get these drops, these random drops of a video teardown and the conferences and these little news bits that come out about the games. So we get this teardown of the PS5. Number one, it's a big boy. He's real big. And it's not going to be until I can put this thing in my space and see it compared to like the Series X. But with all of the renderings, with all of the side-by-side comparisons that we have seen online, this PS5 is big. It's really big. And I'm wondering how much bigger it's going to feel because of the exterior and the form factor of like the kind of the wings that it's got on it on the side plates. But for the size of it, even when they lay it on its side to see how large that thing is, and the heat sink and the cooling fans and all of this built into it, what's positive is that we're seeing the feedback that system is going to be pretty quiet and that we're not going to be dealing with a ton of the big fan noise that we had. We might really get into that 2 years down the road when we've got new God of War, we got another Spider-Man, we have all these other next-gen games that are built specifically for PS5, that if it's taking full advantage of the architecture, then maybe we do start hearing it again, and maybe not. But you got to hope that for the size of that console that they're putting out there, it's going to be pretty quiet. They've insulated a lot of the stuff. Like I feel confident that that system, as big as it is physically, it's going to perform really, really well. And I'm excited about both consoles. The one other piece of news that came out with the PS5 that a lot of you guys saw too was going to be like the storage and how the storage breakdown. And this is again, the one thing that I've noticed with PlayStation right now is not getting a lot of details on, well, what's the UI like and what's going on with external storage and additional storage. And it looks like there's going to be the proprietary storage that we have to use to be able to upgrade. One thing that I do like about Xbox is that while the expandable storage is a dongle and it's very expensive, and we've talked about this and other people have talked about this too on their channels, where if you want to get the Series S and an external storage, there's basically no point. You might as well just move right up into the Series X model. And I totally agree with this. What I love about Microsoft is the ease of use that they're doing, the convenience factor of being able to just plug in a dongle, a USB style for external storage into the back of the unit. It fits perfectly. It's out of sight, out of mind, and everything just works. That to me is worth it. While the price tag for the external storage is high right now, and over time we will see that come down, but for being right out of the gate, I think a lot of people will pay for one. They want to be able to go more digital, and they want to be able to not worry about their storage. That was me on last generation with PS4 and Xbox. And particularly my PS4 or my PS4 Pro that I got. I didn't want to have to deal with the storage because I was playing so much on my PS4. When it was the initial launch day of the original PS4, I immediately got a terabyte or a 2 terabyte drive. I think it was a 2 terabyte drive. And then I threw into my console like day one and just used that because they didn't give you enough for the original. And I knew that I was going to be playing at that time primarily on my PS4. And ladies and sirs, and the one or two girls that are watching the show, hello, how are you? I say that way, but like I'm sure that's just my wife. But I really love it if you guys would go ahead and hit the notification bell and get updates on all the content that we do here on Assemble. From the unboxings we did, we just did the retro Peter Parker. Lost my mind over that thing because that was too much fun. We got our ranking series. We have free for all Fridays like today. We do reacts videos. There's tons of content on the show, and there's always going to be more and more for you. So if you want to be able to engage in the community, I love to have you here. We're on the road to 500 subs, so please do me a favor if you are enjoying this content and this is your type of stuff. Join the Assemble community. Get us on the road to hashtag 500 subs. Let's go. We're almost there. We're like halfway there. So I'm really, really excited about it right now, guys. And I got to thank you for all of your continued support. And what I don't like right now, at least based on the teardown video that they did, was the complexity of, and I say complexity, but you're having to pop open the drive, unscrew everything, pull out a plate, and it's very much a PC style where I need to be able to change out or add more for the storage. And I feel this is where Xbox has really thought about the gamer, the consumer in general, of like, oh, you want to add more storage? Plug this in. On the Sony side, it's more of a task, and it feels out of date in some regards because we've come so far with drives and external drives that for the size of the system, they couldn't just add a proprietary plug on the back like Xbox has done to say, oh, plug in your PS5 external drive. And to me, they make even more money there too, because you're getting on the additions, the accessories, the storage, and making that proprietary forces people into the ecosystem more and forces people to have to buy that. So I don't know. Curious where they go with this. There's some things on both sides they're doing well, and some things have fallen apart. Well, not fallen apart, but where some things are just not as clear. What I really hope is that we get better messaging from Sony over the next few weeks, because we're, what, 30 days-ish away, a month away from the launch. And I feel like we know so much about the Xbox, and I still have a lot of questions about what they're doing with Sony in terms of release dates for games, the UI. Yeah, we've seen the actual unit, but they're not sending out early access for systems to anybody online right now. So it's a bit of a mystery in terms of how it actually performs. More and more news is coming out every day, which is really, really exciting. What do you guys think? Which consoles do you like? Does it matter to you that the consoles might be getting hot like the Xbox? Does that even get on your radar? And do you like the proprietary external storage solution that Xbox is doing? Do you feel that's something that you would actually end up picking up like sooner rather than later? And I'm curious if you guys are actually going more digital or physical, or does it even matter to you anymore? Like me, I'm looking at getting the PS5 all digital version because I want it to be my, main machine for all of the exclusives when it comes to PlayStation, and using my Xbox for Game Pass, obviously, EA Play built into Game Pass now, and the exclusives that Microsoft comes out with. That's where I'm playing all of that, plus third parties is going to be on my Xbox. So I'm not really worried about it, but I can definitely see that we're going to be needing more storage, and it's kind of a bummer that the companies are not giving us bigger hard drives to work with out of the gate. But from the business side, it does totally make sense because you want to be able to get people on you know, buying more storage through Microsoft Store or buying more storage through Sony if they're doing more proprietary storage that way. There's a lot of stuff to be excited about, guys. I'm very pumped. I definitely want to get more Marvel news. I need to know more about this whole thing with Doctor Strange. How do you guys think that that's going to play out? Do you think that they're going to actually do more of a multiverse side, but if the wheels are spinning and things are in motion? And that's very, very exciting. Ladies and gentlemen, that's it for Free for All Friday. Thank you so much for joining us. I've had fun. I've had fun sitting here with you, chit-chatting. We chit and we chat and we talk about the things that we like. And that's what we do every single Friday here on the show. Let me know in the comments below. Guys, we're on the road to 500 subs, hashtag 500 subs. Join the Assemble community. You guys have been fantastic. Thank you so much for all of your support. And as always, thank you guys for assembling with us. See ya.